I don't know how much I've talked about it in the past on here, but I really like Crackdown. I'm one of those people that bounced around between different consoles and stuff like that, but the early days of the 360 era, I remember Crackdown specifically more than anything. I loved the hell out of it. I played the shit out of it. The second one kind of let me down. Everybody said it was crappy, even though now I can't remember why it was so bad or why it was perceived as so bad. But here we are in 2019. Is that the year? Jeez, God, I need a haircut so bad. Fuck. If any of you guys have a barber in the Long Island, New York area, let me know, because I need a new barber. It's 2019. Crackdown 3 is finally here. They announced this game so long ago. It was delayed a million bajillion times. And I think with all of that, it kind of had a lot of anticipation and a lot of expectations on it. Some of where, once we got to actually see what the game looked like, I don't think it was totally warranted. Because now that the game is out, it is very much just more Crackdown. Obviously it's an Xbox One game. It looks a little better. It's smoother. It's got some newer stuff. But really, at its core, you're still Crackdown, man. You're leveling up. You're running and jumping across rooftops in the city, collecting the agility orbs that make the same euphoric sound that pay off when you get them. You're still punching dudes. You're still shooting. You're still driving in controls that aren't that great. Actually, I think the driving controls are actually worse than the old game. But ultimately, it's really interesting because I still love it. I definitely... So I got a review copy. I'm recording this early. I've been playing this one for a while. I'm going to make a prediction right now. I don't think it's going to be reviewed that kindly. I don't think people are going to really dig it that much. But I'm really having a good time. Oops. There's just something about the Crackdown loop that I found so satisfying from the beginning, and I still do here. Like the fact that you are running and jumping and punching and shooting and driving and progressively not only getting better at that, like some sort of RPG, even though this is very much more an action game, the fact that it's like physically manifesting in front of you, you see your character growing and changing and looking cooler and cooler the further you get. I just really love that. I don't know what it is. Like there are like other games where that scratched an itch for me. Like it's just a gameplay mechanic I love. Fable is another example. Your character changing and evolving as you play. I know in Crackdown it's a little more straightforward, but I can't help but like be kind of addicted to it. It's always like, oh, just one more orb. Let me get one more orb. Let me level up one more time. I can totally acknowledge the game's faults, but I enjoy it. And I think I will say, like, if you're a newcomer, you might not get it. You might think it feels a little outdated, you might be a little underwhelmed, or you might find like just a fun, dumb action game. And I think if you are a fan, if you've played any of the previous games, I think you're gonna be happy. I'm happy. Well, I'm mostly happy. The multiplayer, I'll get to that in a second. First of all, the fact that you can play as Terry Crews I think is really cool. I also I really like Terry Crews. Like, why would you pick any other skin? They give you like a couple of other different skins to choose from, and then you can unlock more. But why would you not play as Terry Crews? I almost wish they utilized them a little more, because it's like the other Crackdown games where you don't get a lot of cutscenes, you don't get a lot of story. You just kind of are dumped into this world with bad guys, and you have to systematically take them all down one by one and kind of clear the map and get stronger while you do it. But what Crackdown 3 does have, I think, are some really good boss battles. Some of them are actually pretty satisfying and pretty over the top. When the action is like insane, you're fighting mechs, you're fighting supercomputers, you're fighting super soldiers, you're fighting all kinds of things. There's a surprising amount of variety here that it just feels like they gave you a lot, and I appreciate that. And when it's all happening all on screen at once and it's all chaotic, it's awesome. It's peak Crackdown. And it's insane. I think they really screwed up the messaging in a way with the whole destructibility, because at first everyone thought you were going to be able to destroy stuff in-game, but really you only have that full destructibility stuff in multiplayer, which again I'll get to, but really the single player is fun. I keep saying the same phrase, but that's really the only way I can describe it. It's just like turn your brain off fun. If you want to run around in a video game world with easy, just lock on, shoot dudes, jumping, punching. The weapon types are pretty satisfying. They're really fleshed out this time around. There's a lot more weapons you can use with different purposes and different amounts of power and different use case scenarios. And I think it's interesting that they changed the car stuff. The cars used to transform just to your corresponding level. The more powerful you were, the cooler your car or truck would become. This time around, you just level up and unlock the ability to transform your car into different vehicles entirely. So you start off with a race car, then you can get a all-terrain vehicle that can do jumps and it can drive up walls, which is very interesting and it's cool for the franchise, and a tank. The tank is awesome, especially for harder areas if you want to like tackle an outpost, so to speak. But the driving kind of isn't that good. It's super squirrely and weird, and like you can hit something and then just immediately get stopped or spun around. It's so finicky, especially when like the running and the jumping and the climbing and the boosting is so satisfying. You're just gonna do that the whole time. Still, I just wish the driving wasn't so half-baked, you know? I can nitpick, but really I've just found myself just sitting there for hours just playing and just blowing stuff up and clearing the map. And honestly, that's what I wanted going into Crackdown. Like, that's what I was hoping this would be, and that's what I got. The multiplayer, though, is a hot mess, man. It's actually very bad. It makes the package just overall not great. Thankfully, I didn't go into Crackdown for competitive multiplayer. It still has online co-op, which is something that I am into, like the fact that you can just load your world or start a new world with a friend and just do the Crackdown thing. I think it's great. But the competitive multiplayer, which I didn't really need, turns out it's not that good, and it sucks because it seems like they spent a lot of resources on it, because this is where the game does get the cloud computing, full destructibility stuff, but the destructibility isn't really that good, you know? I don't want to dunk on the game too much here on this channel, because I like to talk about stuff I like, but I am fascinated by it, by what I think is a failure, because I think it's wasted potential. Essentially, the whole Crackdown thing, there's driving, there's leveling up and getting stronger, and shields, and there's all this stuff I think could have made for some interesting multiplayer packaging, and what we really got is just like a regular team deathmatch, 5v5, 2 modes, and that's it. What happened? Especially considering how it's a game based around snap lock-on targeting, so it's pretty easy. If you snap lock-on target somebody, as you can see in my gameplay, you have a homing rocket launcher, like that's it. I don't know, like it's just very cut and dry, simple. It is cool, like you can run around and jump and like bash buildings, but it doesn't really matter. It doesn't serve a lot of strategic purpose because it's so loose. Nothing really hurts you that much. And you can jump around with your jetpack so much that, like, you know, if you're on top of a building and it blows up, you're fine. I think they could have done more. Like I say in the before you buy I'm putting out, it just feels like a demo, you know? They said that they are going to be able to add the ability to matchmake with your friends, because the fact that that's not in the game at launch is like, that says a lot about the state of the freaking thing. But I really hope this is like a beta or something, because like they could add so much more and make this great. But right now, there's no progression. There's not a lot of matchmaking options. There's not really any ranking up or anything. It feels like a demo, and it's so weird, especially considering you access it with like a separate app. It's like a standalone thing. You think it would be like a whole suite. It's not. So that bums me out, but I just go back to the single player, which I think is a ton of fun. I think if you've never played a Crackdown game, try it, but also maybe try the original, because they kind of like clean that up for Xbox One backwards compatibility thing. That still plays pretty well. It's aged fairly well. This one leans way more heavily into sci-fi than the old games did, so it does feel different. I hope people have fun with it. It's just very much a, I'm gonna use that tired reviewer phrase, a mixed bag. It really is a mixed bag, because you have the single player component, which is just more Crackdown. It's got some flaws, but ultimately I think it's really fun. And then you have the multiplayer, which just, man, that could have been so cool. It looks cool, like if you watch gameplay videos, but I was over it. I feel like I saw everything and I was bored of it after like an hour. But I digress. Again, like I said, Crackdown 3, I like it. I like it a lot. It's not perfect, but I'm curious to see what you guys think. So do let me know in the comments. I want to talk about Crackdown with you guys, like who your favorite character was in the old one, which skin did you play as, what did you think about 2, and if you are jumping into 3 now, just starting out, what do you think, man? Let's talk about anything Crackdown down in the comments. Maybe what Crackdown 4 could be like. God, I don't think that's ever going to happen at this point. But let's talk down there. I have so many other games to get to between Game Ranks and here. There's still like Metro to cover. There's the new Far Cry to cover. Oh boy. I will see you guys in the next one though. Of course, as always, there's a podcast down below that I do. You can click that and check that out. I go more in depth on Metro Exodus and stuff. But I always say, thank you guys for watching me ramble about games here. I appreciate it. I'm Jake Baldino. You can subscribe because of video games.